Welcome back to Learn Astrology. My name's Mary English. You can find me at www.maryenglish.com, maryenglish.co.uk, and UK Astrologer. Hello. I hope you are well. Now this week we're not actually doing much in the way of astrology, but I just want to update you on one thing if you haven't already heard about it, and it is I suppose the way to describe it is the fiasco about somebody trademarking the word astrocartography. Now, I covered astrocartography as a thing in episode 58, so that's 50 spelt 58, F-I-F-T-Y and then -8, but I'll put the links in the show notes to this episode, and this episode is 400 something or other. I think we would be now 496, yeah. And I covered how to do it on astro.com and to find out whether or not you're living in a location that suits you. And then I covered it again in episode 328, so that's numbers 328, and talked about Judy Hall, who is the author of the Crystal Bible and her chart and astrocartography and how it related to that. And what is astrocartography? Astrocartography as a term was coined by a guy called Jim Lewis in the 1970s, and basically what he was doing was imposing a map of the world imposing the planets on the map of the world. So it was a method to align the two things, as opposed to us as astrologers regularly we look up at the sky above our heads, draw a little map to represent that. This was the opposite way round. But anyway, lots of people got fun out of it, and it gets used a lot, and people call themselves astrocartographers because they're working out using your chart whether or not the location that you're in is suitable for yourself. So that's as much as I'm going to say about what astrocartography is, because now the word itself has been trademarked. So I am walking on dodgy ground by using that word with you today. Now what I am going to do is I'm going to put into the show notes the links to the legal places where this is going on. Who did it, whatever, you can find out for yourself. And I also just want to talk a little bit about, if we're talking about law, where does that turn up in astrology? So we'll come on to that in a minute. So let's start with the location of how you can even find out whether or not something has been trademarked. And what is a trademark? A trademark is where you have a particular word that represents a product that you might have, like Marmite, for instance. So if you live in the UK, you will definitely know what Marmite is. It's a very sort of salty tasting brown fluid, which is not that fluid. It's a bit sort of sticky, that you spread upon your toast or put into things. It's a very, very strong, salty sort of there's a little bit of a sort of a beer tasting thing, and I don't know what it's made out of, made of some product or other. So I don't know. But anyway, Marmite. Okay, so you cannot use the word Marmite because it belongs to the people that got the trademark for it. So every time you say the word Marmite or you use Marmite, you're referring to this salty tasting brown fluid that comes in a little jar that's been going on for a long time, but different companies have bought it. Okay, so Marmite. So somebody rather weirdly has trademarked the word astrocartography. So if we go to the first link that I'm putting in the show notes so you can read it there, when you get there, if you're using the Google browser, you can click to translate it into English, is what I'm doing because my French is not that marvellous. So I'm going to give you the direct link to where it shows that this actually has been put through legally as a trademark. So you'll read on there that the filing date was the 4th of the 7th, 2025. And I think we also need to look at what the astrology was doing on that date, because it hasn't just affected people that inverted commas practice inverted commas, okay, astrocartography. It's also affected quite a lot of people that are into astrology. Like, what a weird thing to do. Why would you want to trademark something so that nobody else can bloody well use the flipping word? So going back to the blurb verb that's on the page there. It's got an identifying number, which is 5161556. The word or the brand is Astrocartography. The filing date's the 4th of July 25. It's a registered trademark. The registration date when they agreed to it, so they tick the box. So obviously the filing date is when you do it online. The registration date was the 14th of the 11th, 25. It says the brand type is a verbal marker, so it means that you can't say the word. The language is in French. That's a submission language, the person that submitted it. I don't think they're actually French, but I do know they probably speak French. I've got no idea if the person themselves is French. I think I heard somewhere along there that they came from another country. But anyway, under products and services, this is the thing. Class 41. You cannot use that word, only they can, for education, provision of educational information, publishing of books, provision of non-downloadable films via video on demand services, production of films other than advertising services, organisation of exhibits for cultural and educational purposes, electronic publication of books and periodicals online. That's so it's under what categories has this been done? So class 41, which is education, and then class 45, establishment of horoscopes. Now you're trying to tell me that every flippin' astrologer that exists in the whole of France cannot use the word astrocartography. Anyway, that's what this means, yeah? So that's the date that it was put on there and all the things done and it registered and stuff. Then they didn't just do it for France, they thought they'd go one cleverer, and they decided to also, and I'll put the links on the show notes, they also decided to go to the European Union of Intellectual Property Office and repeated all the stuff they'd done in the French one because they'd been ticked the box and the French one had gone through. The person only did it online. As far as I can make out, they didn't get any legal representation because their actual name is on there, which was a bit of a daft thing to do because everybody now knows what they're called. Duh. So it went through, so I'm now on the EU one. It's a filing number 019290485. The filing date for that was the 12th of December 2025. Filing language in English, second language French. So now we're on the EU website here. It says the status of it is that it's under examination, which means that the trademark application has been accepted by the office, has met the minimum filing requirements, and that this application has been assigned to an examiner. The goods and services that you and me can't use that word are printed books and printed publications. It doesn't actually mention anything about podcasts, but anyway. 45, astrology consultancy and horoscopes. So anybody else that calls themselves an astrocartographer will get done. It's not only got the name of the person concerned, it's also got an address form, which I did check out at one point, which appeared to be a residential address, and at that residential address was registered a business for someone who was 18 years old and did videos. So random. So I ran a bit of info there. And according to the EU thingy, it just says it's under examination. Okay, so that's translating from French to English. I don't know how direct that translation is. So that's, if you want the evidence, go there and have a look for yourself and make your own, make your own observations and conclusions. So the word's been registered. No one can use it now. Well, I can use it in the UK at the moment, and the UK isn't part of the EU. I would have thought legally I can use that word at the moment. Not that I don't even advertise myself, but I have got a podcast with it on there, and have had clients ask me about it, and we've together used the astro.com website and found out various different things from them. But I don't call myself an astrocartographer. So there we go, right? So that's all how the legal status is. It's now a trademark, and when you trademark something, other people, like Marmite. No one else, so say you were creating a product yourself and you were a chef or you were a cook or a pastry maker and you wanted to have Marmite flavour croissant or whatever, and you marketed it as Marmite flavour, you would either have to get permission from the people, I think it's Unilever, that own Marmite, to be able to do your flavourings. Or you'd run the risk of somebody chasing after you. Now, according to the hearsay, so I don't know, I'm trying to give you only the facts today. I have heard that some people in France have had cease and desist letters. Now, it's a different thing altogether about website addresses. Website addresses are completely different things. This has been registered as a trademark, which means no one else can use that word and call themselves an astrocartographer or to offer astrocartography services. I believe the person that made the application seems to think that because they've been blessed by Jim Lewis in some way and has done a certain amount of training, that they therefore are an expert in it and no one else should be allowed to have anything to do with it. But just to let you know that Jim Lewis did try and trademark the word astrocartography way back when. You'll find the information to that, and I'll put the link on AstroWiki. And unfortunately, he couldn't trademark the word astrocartography, so he called it Astro Star Cart Star Graphy or something like that. It had two little stars in it, so nobody could use the word that had the stars in. But you know, from where I'm sitting, it seems an awful waste of time and energy to do it, because once it's not as if you submit these things and that's it, it automatically means people are going to stop doing it. Well, no, they're not going to stop doing it. They'll carry on doing it until they get discovered. So what you're going to do is spend every day Googling who else has got, this is within the astrological community here now. I just think, well, that's not a very community-driven thing, is it? So the French trademark has apparently gone through. The EU one is under review. If you've got €300 handy, then you'd be able to object to the EU one. I don't have that sort of money, and I wouldn't want to involve myself in doing the legal side of things anyway. One wonders what will eventually happen. My hope is somebody at the EU place will just Google the flipping word and find out there's so many other people use it. How could one person decide to steal it? And anyway, the other thing that I think the thing that aggravated me the most about it is astrocartography is a technique. It's a form of astrology, just like synastry or transits. And nobody has trademarked, as far as I'm aware, the word synastry or transits. But I will just let you into some other information. So hold your horses. Now, the word astrocartography, as I say, has been trademarked so far in France and has gone through to the EU thing as well. So I'm back in the French websitey place where all the trademarks are, and just chucking out this sort of random stuff. So there's a brand that's called themselves Astro, and they filed on the 24th of April in 2026, and they are a scientific and laboratory equipment company, and they do medical and veterinary equipment and instruments. You think, why the hell have they called themselves Astro? But anyway, that one hasn't gone through. That's there. So I did sort of search to sort of see what other how many other trademarks have got the word Astro in them, and there's a total on the French database of 709 containing the word Astro. So there's Astro Seek, Astro Breakthrough, Astro Tim, Astro Juno, Astro Black Roll, Astro Reno. I'm not going all the way through the flipping alphabet. There's 700 something there. And on the EU trademark, there are a total of, with the word Astro in them, there's a total of 1,851 applications been made, and not all of them have gone through. So one called Astron, they're a German company. They were registered in 1997, and it was done by one person, and I think that's a company name there. So the word Astron, somebody owns that. Somebody tried to put the word gastroma in with a small g, don't know why that was, in 96, and that didn't go through. The word astro went through on the 4th of 1996. That was the filing date. The registration date was 1999. I don't know if that's still, because there's only a certain amount of years that you have it for. So that it's not as if astrocartography is the only flipping word on there. When I went originally, I went back to the word astrology and I searched for that in the French database. I believe there were 8 applications and they'd gone through. So let me just tell you what they were, just so you can get a perspective to who's out there doing weird stuff. Yes, there were 17. Beg your pardon, got my numbers wrong. There was the word astrology. Do you know, has that one gone through? Let me have a look. In 2025, request completely rejected. So somebody tried to file in September last year the word astrology, a brand, and downloadable applications for mobile. So this is class 9 and 42. So this is for software. So somebody obviously developed some software and wanted to go to. So that, funnily enough, that got rejected, which is the weirdest of things. There's something called Ask Astrology, Starseed Astrology, Astrology Zone, which I think is Susan Miller, which is slightly different because I think she's got, that's what her website's called or something, so I could understand that. Somebody's tried Astrology of the Zodiac, Astrology of the 13 Zodiac Signs. Did that one go through? Hold on, let me translate that. Weird what people do. That it got completely rejected. Yeah, so it's funny how funny how the French thing went through when there's other words that have got the word astro in them and they haven't gone through. So Lord knows what this original person did. Anyway, so let's have a quick look at the first application. So this is when it was first filed. That's not when it was accepted. That's when they had to pay their money, which I can't remember. It's a few thousand euros. Why do you want to spend that? So let's have a look at the chart, okay? Because the thing is, and I think the other thing that's cheesed so many people off, was this person's a known person and has worked with other persons, and other persons know this person, so it's not as if they're living in a box. And they did all of this without telling anybody else, so that there's a 3-month sort of waiting time. When you make your trademark application, you have to wait 3 months, and if no one objects, then your application goes through. So it's provided it's not objected or just turned down completely like those other ones were that have got the word and tried to use the word astrology. If no one objects, then it goes through. Unless they decide themselves, that's a daft thing, you can't use that word because the word is so much in the language of the words that people use, okay? They put it through, waited the 3 months, nothing hit anything anywhere until just a few weeks ago. So what am I having now? I'm having the 14th of June, and I think it was, because everything's been moving so fast these last few weeks, I think it was a couple of weeks ago when the SHIT hit the fan and everybody heard about it because somebody had a cease and desist notification. And cease and desist just means stop doing what you're doing. So here is the astrology, and I thought 4th of July 2025, so the French Trademark organisation, their head office is based in Paris. I've used a time that I use when we're talking about legal things. Generally speaking, this is just general now, things like when I've looked at legal stuff, is that something becomes law on a date, and normally it's the first thing in the morning of the date. So the day of the, like, this date started at 12:01. So that's when I was looking at things like when was the word United Kingdom of United Kingdom and Northern Ireland, when was that created? And according to the .gov website, those things come into legality at first, like 12 o'clock in the morning of the day of the date. So that's the date and time. I've actually done 2 minutes past. So we've got Paris, France, 2 minutes past 12 o'clock in the morning, and 4th of July 2025. Now, ignoring the fact that the ascendant is 29 degrees Aquarius, which apparently shouldn't do things when they're 29 degrees because that's daft, but anyway, so I've done whole sign. Okay, I've done the chart as whole sign because I don't know for sure what time this application was made, or legally, as far as I'm aware, legally it's the first thing of the date when the date starts of using the what we use in Gregorian calendar. Bloody. Anyway, the biggest thing that stood out for me, we've got Pluto retrograde in the sign of Aquarius. So if you're going to share stuff with people, you're going to use the sign of Aquarius. And you got Pluto, deep change and transformation, retrograde. Directly opposite Mercury in Leo. So Mercury in Leo is 8 degrees and Pluto is 3 degrees. If you want to cause a verbal fuss, then make your Mercury be opposite to Pluto if you want to pee off a whole chunk of people. Square, so now Pluto is square to the moon, which is 24 degrees Libra. But that's only a mathematical thing, and it's in air signs, but I don't know why Astro.com has done that as a square, but it's a very late degree. But oh, sorry, that's right, it would be square if it was in the sign of Capricorn, which is not. But anyway, mathematically it's still square. And then you've got, so I mean, what I was looking at was like a sort of legal things, and according to our lovely friend Anthony Lewis, the things that govern law in houses, now I'm not talking about houses because I don't know what time this happened, houses is legal partnerships and lawsuits is the 7th house. Okay, so that's partnerships, divorce and lawsuits. I'm going to sue you, yeah. And 9th house is lawyers and the law. And then signs of the zodiac is generally Libra, because Libra is the scales of justice. So this was filed on a day when the moon was in Libra. Regardless of time of day, the moon is 20 something degrees into the sign of Libra, and it's mathematically squared to Pluto. But I thought the funniest thing was the Pluto opposition to Mercury. Okay, now don't take my word for it for the interpretation of Mercury opposition Pluto is. I'm going to quote for you from Astro.com. AstroClick Portrait is the piece of software I'm using, but this is what made me chuckle. Mercury opposition Pluto. You may have a hard time getting people to agree with you about the ideas that you hold to be important. Others may seem to you to put your ideas down, threatening your ability to be what you want. The problem is that even while you are young, your opinions and ideas bring about conflicts with others. This may happen because of the way that you express yourself, or perhaps you're attracted to people who are unpleasantly forceful, although you like them. At times in your life, your mind gets so intensely involved in some idea or belief that you become quite obsessed with it, which others find upsetting. At such times, you get all caught up in the process and can't see the rest of the world very clearly, but eventually the phase passes and you can go back to normal. Now that's interpretation from, I'm giving quotes here because I'm not going to get done for copyright as well while I'm doing this episode. Interpretation by Robert Hand from Youth Portrait on the website astro.com. So Pluto opposition to Mercury, or Mercury opposition Pluto in the signs of Leo. Look at me, look at Pluto. You change all that. And then Aquarius, it's for everyone. Okay, and you've got them in opposition. That would be, and then it makes you think, this person was an astrologer that did this. Why would you want to do that on a, obviously not paying any attention, but why would you want to do it when Pluto is retrograde opposition Mercury? Obsession, okay? I've put the chart on the show notes so you can have a look at all the other planets there. I'm not going to quote them out. I mean, there's sign conflicts there and some angle conflicts and stuff, but that was the thing that stood out for me the most. That's not going to be very, and I'm not advising this person, and I don't even use astrology much, but I was just sort of thinking, oh, would I really want to do that on that day? But you've got to be really obsessed to want to do that. When Pluto and Mercury are in opposition to each other, there are going to be bits of obsession. And I have been told that the reason this even came about is because this person was peed off about the fact that Jim Lewis did it this way and other people were doing it that way, and they thought that if they trademarked it, they'd be able to stop everybody from doing it their way, and they'd be doing it. It's just like, oh my goodness me, I'm glad I don't live in this person's head. So today's just a short episode. I just wanted to give you the legal things of what's going on, that the application's been made in France and nobody there has twigged that you cannot trademark a technique, because astrocartography is an astrological method, a modern method. Don't get me wrong, it's not an ancient one. It's a modern method that has been developed within astrology, but triggered by Jim Lewis, who, interestingly, I'm not going to go into it in this episode, but if you look at his chart, which is on Astro Databank, Jim Lewis was a Gemini, and This is transiting through Gemini. I think, some astrology going on there, disruption, and it's all about communication, because this is all about a word. Someone wants to take ownership of a word. Hello. Anyway, we are now episode 496. I'm giving you some advance warning. In 4 episodes time, I'm going to hit episode 500, and I would love you to listen, because there's going to be a competition, there's going to be discounts, there's going to be some freebies. It's going to be a nice fun time. I'm just building up for it, so I've got 3 more episodes to go, and then we're there. So do make sure that you listen to episode 500. It's just me and you, there's no guests. Okay, we're going to go through some things. We're probably going to go through a chart. I definitely know that what I'm going to be setting you as a little task to do, but there definitely will be a discount as well. So hold on in there. I hope you have a fab week, and I'll be back next week. Bye bye now.